All right. There we are again. It is that time of the week, 4 p.m. Well, 4:06 at least, according to almost 4. Still working on this German punctuality situation. It's not. We're getting better. So welcome back to another freshly squeezed episode of PKs on Air. We are talking about something that I have not much of a clue about, and that's going to be paid search. But before we do that, and with that, actually, we have Julia somewhere there on my screen. Exactly. And of course, joined by my fantastic co-host Dominique. Ladies, how's life?
Yeah. Everything is going well. It's getting warmer in Berlin, at least. So we see the sun.
Yeah.
Finally again.
You might see like the sun shining on my face, reflecting from a window across the.
If that's how it works, actually, we're gonna have you back more often. That I think is that's good. That's good to know. Perfect. So before we go into today's topic, which I think is really an interesting one. I think we also announced it last week. Just very quickly, as always, because people are still like somewhat dialing in. We have the show notes over at pa.ag/notes, and there's actually 2 things that I quickly want to highlight because we had some really cool sessions in the last weeks, and 2 of them specifically on one was Tech SEO. That was last week with Izzy Smith from Write. So that recap is, of course, available on the website, including like the video and like a whole bunch of summaries and notes and links. We were talking about this website quality study that you might need, etc. So that is available. And then the week before, like a very hot topic, we still have it on our social channels, Apple's iOS 14 update, kind of the impact on tracking, performance marketing in general. We had our own Paul joining us. Also, like the slides, we put them in the notes and in the recap as well. So if you want to poke around, that is where you need to go. So pa.ag/notes is where you can find all of that. Oh, that's an interesting view. That's not the one that I wanted, but that also works. There we go. We're still working on this. No, I like this one. No, I also don't like this one. That's me too big. So I think we just go back to what we had. Anyhow,
I think that works.
Yeah, that works. I think. So Dominique, you have been busy last week. I think it was.
Was it last week?
We talked about it. So I think it was last week, wasn't it? Anyhow. A couple of days ago, there was
it was the week before, actually.
See, end of the week before. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. No, we have it. We were talking about that a bit before because it was a free event, and I think there's a bunch of them, but this one we were quite excited about because it was mainly kind of tailored around digital PR, outreach, kind of those types of things, not so much your kind of classic SEO conference, right? So how did it go? How are you happy with your talk, and what were kind of the highlights that you were seeing? I'm sure you have probably seen a couple of other talks as well.
So I cannot say that much about my highlights on the other speakers because actually I didn't have the chance to see that much more talks, but Digital Loft is at the moment working on putting everything together. So they did the recordings of every kind of session. And I think during the next days, they will publish all of them. So I'm pretty excited to see also James Brockband, of course. I just saw like 15 minutes of his session, which was quite inspiring. And then there was Ren Fishkin as well, of course. Pretty excited to see his thoughts on the state of digital PR as well. So I think my session was quite well. I'm super happy with it. I touched on or focused mainly on content localization there. Content localization, but also the process around, so which kind of team setup you need in order to work on like a proper content localization strategy, what kind of the information you need before you can evaluate, or what do you need to evaluate on which kind of market should I roll out my content marketing campaigns internationally. So I think that was quite good. So I'm super happy about the feedback. I received many emails and messages afterwards. So I had also some great discussions also afterwards after the conference. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Did you share the slides somewhere, or can people get the slides?
I think we can. I didn't publish it yet, but we can definitely publish on our blog.
Yeah. So for those that are dialing in, feel free to either message us. The Twitter works as always, or just leave a comment. We're happy to share the slides. By the way, people are still dialing in, so that's quite cool. Leo says hi from Bulgaria. Sunny Bulgaria as well. So I think that seems to be a thing in Europe these days. No, very good. Happy to have you guys joining. I saw a couple of people actually were quite excited. I saw some threads on LinkedIn actually when kind of the team posted the announcement on that we're going to talk more on the paid search side of things today. So. Let's see what Yulia has for us. I think because I guess you're all somewhat here for that. So I think without further ado, we kind of wrap up on recaps, go straight in, and then of course if you have questions wherever you are watching from, so Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or whatever, feel free to kind of just leave them also in the comments. We're kind of trying to pick them up as we go along. Or you can, of course, kind of get in touch afterwards. So we try to kind of follow up. I guess either way works. So you put together, I'll just throw them on the screen, a couple of slides as well, right?
Yes.
So let's go.
Summarize it. I'm super happy to be talking about some of the latest PPC news from Google and Microsoft. I think both have been fairly busy. There was this calm in the beginning of the year, not much has changed. And then now they've kind of just fully went for it and published a lot of changes. So I felt the need to address some of it. So I'm really happy to discuss some of it today and show all the things that have happened. So I kind of grouped it into the two areas, into Google Ads and Microsoft Ads. I have quite a few topics, but the one I'm mostly going to be focusing on is the very first one. It's the phrase and broad match modified changes that have been put upon us by Google recently, and then as well auto-applied recommendations, or AAR in short. Then responsive search ads, there's been some updates there. INSERP lead forms as well, which is quite exciting because more people can make use of that now. And then also display ads attribution, which is also a nice thing. And then I have a little bit of a bonus one in there. I couldn't fit it on here. So there's just too much that has happened.
So the agenda slide was too small, that's what you're saying. Yeah, okay, got it.
The agenda slide was too small. I mean, Microsoft didn't do so much. So that's the two topics I have there. It's manual CPC, sunsetting, and then also the filter link extensions, a new type of extension that we can use on our ads.
And that stuff is all new as of this year, or?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. Some of it also kind of happened already end of last year, or it's just been recently discussed a bit more. I mean, the one that's very recent is the phrase and BMM changes. That was literally as of February now. So that's why it's also the one I'm going to focus on most, because it changes quite a few things of how we manage accounts. But and the rest is kind of some of it just recently, some of it already a little at the end of last year or so.
Gotcha.
But I'll get straight into it, I guess. If you have questions, I know this is not your guys' topic so much, but I'm also happy to answer them.
I'm sure I have some.
Okay, you're gonna put me to the test, so no problem. So Google. I will focus on the phrase match and BMM match type changes first. So what I wanted to do first was kind of taking a look back at the history of all match type changes. Things got fuzzier and fuzzier throughout the years. So I felt of really looking back for quite some time. A lot has happened. Literally in 2014, it was one of the first changes when close variant matching for all exact and phrase keywords came along. I remember back then that was kind of my beginnings in PPC actually. So yeah, for me it was a bit like, oh, what's happening? Didn't know much yet at that time, and yeah, there was lots of things happening. People developing scripts to get around it, and it was quite a thing back then for sure. But yeah, there's then been a bit of a quiet time for a few years, and then in 2017, actually exact match changed again. So word order and function words were added to close variants for exact match. So back in the day, close variants was more like synonyms, plural, misspellings, and now also, word orders could be changed around, which is quite significant because is that still an exact match? Don't know, not so much. And also function words like in between other words were added. So that was already another big thing in 2017. Then exact match in 2018, exact match keywords started including variations that share the same meaning as the keyword. So it's really getting fuzzier now if it hasn't gotten enough fuzzy yet. So yeah, and then in 2019, same meaning close variants were extended to phrase match and broad match modifier keywords as well. So a lot has happened in those few years already. And yeah, now 2020, 2021, we are now at yet another change, which is that broad match modified will be phased out entirely and replaced by an updated phrase match, which, yeah, to anyone that probably doesn't know PPC, there's still a lot of match being said, but it's quite a big thing for the PPC community because that's the main thing we do is like booking in keywords in different match types within search. So yeah, it's quite a big deal for us. And yeah, this was my first reaction to that. And then the second reaction, I was like, why? Why would you do that, Google? Why would you do that to us? So their reasoning to simplify match types. So yeah, and we'll see how simplified it really is. So yeah, basically I took this from Google directly. So this quote that yeah, basically today we have yeah, the following match types. We have exact match for precision, we have broad match for reach, phrase match, and broad match modifier for a balance of both. Even though I have to say phrase match and broad match modifier, there's still quite the difference in how much it reaches, because phrase match is quite limiting in a way that it only matches phrases and other words that are kind of around the phrase. And yeah, broad match modifier just kind of you just each separate word is needed within the search term. So yeah, this is still quite a difference, I would say, but yes, they say that's very similar. So that's why they're trying to give us more control and better reach, bringing the best of broad match modifier into phrase match. So as a result, phrase match will expand to cover additional broad match modifier traffic while continuing to respect word order when it's important to the meaning. So this makes it easier to reach customers and manage keywords in your account. Yeah, so this whole meaning thing, it's like the meaning of life, it's like the meaning of a search
That's
term.
how it sounds like, at least. Yeah,
yeah, it's quite a thing. So yeah, very clear already. Just by this, it's like, for sure, yeah, making it so much simpler. So this is another one that kind of showcases what that means. So an example keyword, moving services to New York City to Boston. So this is a phrase match with the quotation marks. And then this is the broad match modifier equivalent. It's moving services New York to Boston. And yeah, you can see that in the old matching, phrase match would only cover like just the same order, just there might be a word in front of it or anything like this. Then broad match modifier would do the same thing, that it would throw something in between there. So it's like new NYC corporate moving to services to Boston. So it's like just matching a bit more.
Yep.
And yeah, moving services Boston to NYC is something that now isn't, for example, covered by the updated phrase match, because they say this changes the meaning, which in this case, it's very clear to say, yeah, when someone's moving from New York City to Boston, quite clear that they don't want to move from Boston to New York City.
Yeah, not the other way around. Yeah,
not the other way around. So in this case, the word order changes the meaning. So that's why they say, yeah, those kind of searches are not going to be included in the updated phrase match. So that's why this kind of circle looks a bit skewed, because it's not really fully covering everything that broad match modifier did. Now, basically in accounts that have this location component like this, we wouldn't usually use broad match modified, because in these accounts the phrase match is more powerful because you can control better in which order it is. And yeah, so it's not like people would have used broad match modifier for those kind of businesses.
So it's a bit of a made up example anyways. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's not like we would use it if the order was important, we wouldn't have used a BMM. That's to make that clear. But in general, we haven't used phrase match for quite a while, so it is kind of like they're trying to revive phrase match, because a lot of companies and agencies haven't used it anymore, because it kind of is just a more tight variant of broad match modifier, and therefore a lot of companies just skipped it, which we did as well, to be honest. When it was not important in which word order it was, there was no need to do things 3 times, because we can already have exact match, and having phrase match and broad match modifier, it just bulks up the account. So that's why we used to just focus on BMM, because it covers the same searches anyway and still gives us that reach that we are going for. But yeah, just some more examples to make it a bit more clear, if it wasn't clear enough yet. But yeah, there's still different examples. So broad match modifier keyword, from how this is not going to match after the update. So you can see here that resume services, it's like, what are some customer service skills to put on a resume? So this is, it shows that BMM, basically what they want to show here is that BMM can go quite crazy with the matching. That's, I guess, what they want to signify here. And used printers, companies that used daisy wheel printers. They really chose the best examples. It's the kind of stuff that we would negative out of an account, probably, when we would see it in a search term report. But yeah, and then phrase match keywords, you can kind of see after the update, holidays in Zambia. Back in the day, it could have only added a word before or after, and it would have still matched. But now it can go and put stuff in between or change the order as well. So holiday spots in Zambia is okay, or long sleeve lace dress, which still, this is not phrase match to me anymore, because phrase match was about the phrase staying in.
The phrase itself, right? Not like,
So it's very, don't think it makes it simpler, in my opinion, but that's just, they're making it easier for us, apparently. So just to summarize, there's quite a few facts to know about when this is happening and so on. So it will be rolled out over the course of a few months. So it's already started from mid-February until July. So the annoying thing about this is that you don't know when your account is changing. And we ask Google. It's not like that it would help to ask them, but they basically say, we won't know when it's changing for account, but basically you should get a notification, they said, but I'm not so sure I trust that. So we don't know when every account will be updated or not within this time frame. Then in July 2021, the creation of BMM keywords will no longer be available. So then it doesn't make sense anymore to create BMM keywords because they won't work. And the one important thing, though, is that legacy BMM keywords will still work and continue to serve using the new phrase match behavior. So it's like they will look like broad match modifier keywords, but they will work as phrase match is going to work. And then one of those important things around Google, understanding the meaning of a search term and all these things has to do a lot with language. So they are not doing this in all languages immediately. So the following languages are first, so English, German, Spanish, French, Italian, Dutch, Portuguese, and Russian. So the more where there's more people speaking it and where they have more data, I suppose. And all other Google Ads languages, the new matching behavior will roll out later this year. So there's still some time for those. And yeah, it will not impact negative keyword match types. Those will remain the same. Then we will, broad match modifiers will no longer operate on a word within the keyword. So the thing with broad match modifier is that you could actually choose to just put a plus in front of certain words that you would definitely want to show up within the search term.
So there was a requirement for that word to be there, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So whenever this plus would be there, I would want to make sure that this is within the keyword, and the rest, Google can go quite wild and match it with whatever they think is relevant. And this was the thing. We didn't use that so much. We would always kind of make every word within the query modified word, so with a plus in front of every word. But in those cases, it's obviously a bit complicated. So that doesn't work anymore. You will just, the operator will basically apply to both words. And so anyone that has used that in the past will definitely have to change their strategy quite a lot.
I was going to say that means you need to revisit definitely what you have done in the past, right? At that point in time.
Yeah, exactly. If you will have both broad match modified and phrase match in your account, both might enter the auction because there's no difference in treatment between phrase and BMM keywords anymore. So the keyword with the highest ad rank will be preferred. So it is a bit like, it's not double bidding in a way, but we generally try within a PPC account to keep it quite clean and not have search terms matching to too many other keywords within the account, because you will not know where things are coming through. But if they're in the same ad group, for example, then I guess it's not too big of a problem. They will just choose the one with the highest ad rank. And then they also promise that it does not impact quality score. So no worries around this one. And then they also mentioned that additional tools will be launched to more easily convert BMM keywords throughout the year. And they will start phasing in recommendations, because we have these lovely recommendations in our Google Ads accounts now. And in there, you will also get recommendations for removal of duplicates. So whenever you do have a phrase and BMM, it's going to surface that you should maybe get rid of the BMM keyword at some point. So
some kind of notification there then. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you can immediately get rid of it if you want. And then they do very much highlight that there's no need to migrate keywords, because you will lose all performance statistics by doing so. So because the legacy BMM keywords will still work, serving the new phrase match behavior, they obviously have a lot of data. And especially if you haven't worked with phrase match before, this might be a bit like, oh God, if I have to get everything updated now and get phrase added in everything and then get rid of my BMM terms, it's obviously a lot of work. So that's why they're really telling you, don't worry about it. It will still work, just not as a BMM match type. It will just be a phrase. So no need of doing anything now, but I'll get to what we actually recommend as PKs, because this is what Google is saying now. So that might differ at some point. That's not all of it, actually. They also did some broad match and exact match improvements. So broad match is the one thing we try to stay away from as much as possible, because it goes wild. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, absolutely wild and crazy, and any adjective you want to find for that. What they say now is that it looks at additional signals in your account to deliver more relevant searches. Big promise. Then when paired with smart bidding, these broad match signals, which include landing pages, keywords in your ad group, and more, they are supposedly to work much better. So they really want you to pair broad match together with smart bidding. That's what Google is recommending a lot. And I will mention what we recommend on this a little later. And the one thing that I am excited, though, is happening is the exact match improvements, because exact match is still our preferred match type, because it's the one thing where we have the most control, I would say. So an exact match keyword that is identical to a query is now always preferred if it's eligible to match even across different campaigns. And this is quite a big deal. This gives you more control over which keyword matches to a search and can help reduce account complexity. This is a thing I didn't expect, to be honest, coming from Google. I think at some point they're going to get rid of exact match entirely. So this is a bit going the different route, which I appreciate, to have to be honest. So one thing we analyzed last year, funnily. So we've been revisiting our best practices for quite some time now because, there's been so many match type changes over the years, as I've shown you before, and we've actually analyzed the matching behavior of exact match keywords last summer, I think. So we took some of the Corona downtime to do some deep dive in all our accounts, and we really found out that when an exact search term would only match an exact match keyword whenever multiple match types would be within the same ad group, and that would already work perfect. So we really checked so many accounts, and it worked already perfect then that it would, in a multi-match type ad group, match the exact search term properly to the exact match keyword. Because this is a thing that I would have always said, whenever you have both match types, Google will put it through the broad match, because in the end they can make it a bit more expensive probably, and they can just make it a bit less clear, I guess.
Less transparent, right?
Less transparent. And already then we found out that this was only when you would split up match types and put the same keyword with different match types in different ad groups or campaigns, then it wouldn't work. So then it would go via the broad. So that's the.
But if you have it together, then it wasn't a problem. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever you would combine them in the same ad group, it was working. And so that was already an insight we made then, and which made us rethink some of the account structure choices we've made in the past, because that simplifies things a lot if you can just mix the match types, actually. Still, I wanted to talk a bit more about our opinion about this change and its impact. So one thing I really want to mention is that Google's intent or contextual matching has never been perfect, and there are various subtleties Google is not very good at differentiating, especially in other languages than English. In English they have so much data, and things can be, but even then I know that there's Brett Geddes, I think, has an article out there as well where he's saying there's still these subtle things where Google won't be able to tell the proper difference of the meaning. And so the algorithm isn't 100% accurate. Search term reports remain as important as ever. And unfortunately, there was a huge change around this one last year, where we've lost a lot of visibility over search terms. You probably heard this because it was a big ruckus in the whole PPC community, because we basically lost visibility over so many search terms. It's literally, I can look into a PPC account and I don't see a search term that converted anymore. Like, there's just this other line at the bottom where you're like, okay, so this is all the data that I can basically, I don't know what search term it was or what it did. We can't follow it up. I mean, there's a way to look at it in Google Analytics, which helps a little bit, but it makes things more difficult for everyone. So that doesn't make it better that now search term reports are even more important with that change happening last year. Then one thing I also wanted to highlight, as I said before, we rarely used phrase match previously, just when word order was important. And what we will do from now on is just using phrase match instead. It's a fairly easy decision, I guess, looking at the change. And then what we will do is just monitor the rollout and performance very closely. We will probably see a reduction in traffic because we mostly focused on BMM before. If you mostly focused on phrase match before, you would probably see a huge increase in traffic. But we are really hoping that it won't be too grave. But I can't tell right now. I mean, we already tried to look at it. It doesn't seem like it's been rolled out in our accounts yet, by the looks of it. But this has to be analyzed account by account. And then hopefully we can tell more. And Yeah.
Is there a way to automate that, or do you need to do all of that manually?
We do have I have a bit of an insight on that as well. We created a BigQuery dashboard, and hopefully we can notice the changes a bit easier that way whenever they did happen to an account. So I'm going to give a short insight on that as well, on what you can do to keep an eye on it. And yeah, and in the end, it's just another of Google's moves towards more automation and less transparency, unfortunately, to increase their bottom line in the end, besides this exact match update, which, I'm happy about. But yeah, what this will do eventually, that's the thing that is not so obvious now, but what this will do is drive more people to use broad match, especially people that don't know. That's the thing I'm worried about, because people will just think, okay, then I just use broad match, and this is, I wouldn't recommend doing that, because the problem is maybe the new phrase match will not give them the results they need, or not enough volume or anything like that, and then there's only one. There's only one other option, and that's why we are also thinking about what we will do when we do get to these points, and I'm gonna show that shortly. And here,
there's a quick, hold on, there's a quick question. I think that fits in quite nicely. I just pop it in here so you can see it on the screen. The question is, are you gonna go for exact match and phrase match in the same ad groups then from now on? I think you answered that kind of, but I think that's the answer is yes, right?
Yeah, basically, that's what we would do. I mean, we don't fully say that that's the full-on best practice, because we still do think there might be some cases where splitting match types on campaign level makes sense, which is when you're very budget restricted, or you need to use a bidding strategy that is, very, that can only be used on campaign level, basically. So like target impression share, not like we would want to use target impression share, because it's not the most sophisticated bidding strategy out there. But in those cases, we would still split match types. So then we would have an exact match and a phrase match campaign. But in general, if there's no huge budget limitations on a client, we would just mix exact and phrase in the same ad group now. Yeah.
Right.
Nice to see that Leo is on the Nice. And yeah, so our suggestions on how to deal with the change is that for any new campaigns, just skip BMM from now on and use phrase match instead. Fairly easy. Then make sure to analyze your status quo performance and keep a close eye on the performance of your phrase and BMM keywords. So yeah, as I said, if you have a lot of phrase, you will probably see an increase. If you have a lot of BMM currently, you will probably see a decrease in traffic. Then, as I said already as well, monitor your search term reports closely to see changes in matching. There's some really useful tools out there, so I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug of two of the tools we use, which are amazing and actually help with those kinds of things. So we utilize tools such as Optimizer and Analysis, which can help with some of their functions. Like on Analysis, you have duplicate search term analysis. So whenever a search term is coming through multiple keywords in an account, so that could be a really useful one there, or also n-gram analysis to analyze separate components of the search terms or keywords. And then in Optimizer, there's also a new and declining search queries report where you can identify, okay, which queries have dropped in the past week or which ones have been new. So it really helps you seeing if there's a lot of things like, not showing up anymore now, that would be shown in there. So yeah, I really recommend those tools. If you're not using them yet, it probably will help make things a bit more automated on the way. And yeah. And then one really big recommendation is from my side, don't just cut all your BMMs now. So don't just go, okay, I'll just, cut it, put phrase in, done. And that's it. That's not the way to go about it. There's some performance data on there, especially if you're using bidding algorithms, some kind of smart bidding. You will have to be careful with those things. I would really recommend, once the relevant tools from Google are launched, to convert BMM to phrase easily without losing performance data, to make use of them. They did promise there's something coming. So I'm sure that will come very soon. But one thing that some of us are doing in accounts where we are a little bit worried on what the change is going to do, we are starting already by adding in phrase additionally to your BMM keywords already to start collecting data. And as I said, in the same ad group, to pause the BMMs later on once more data has been collected. So it's just kind of phasing it in.
Preparation work, phasing it in. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing you could do as well. And yeah, if you heavily rely on BMM covering a different word order, there might be accounts where this is really important, where the account structure was kept quite simplified, because BMM, the nice thing about it was that you didn't have to go in and put all those different word orders in there anymore. That's the nice thing about it. So whenever that is the case for keywords over one word, and then, or if you notice a large traffic drop, for example, then consider adding the opposite word order as a phrase keyword already. Now this is a bit like, it goes into two directions. I mean, this is again like if you just want to be sure and you're very worried that it's not going to understand the meaning if it's in a different word order. That's the whole thing. You really have to trust Google a lot with understanding meanings of words or the intent behind the search query. Might not be perfect. So with this one though, it does probably help in some way, but the problem might be duplicate search terms. So again, that could then help using one of the tools like Analysis, if you could then see, okay, no, it ends up matching through the two keywords. So then you know, okay, Google is able to tell that this is the same meaning. So then I don't need to have both keywords. But yeah, and then this means a lot of work. So that's maybe why not everyone should do this. And then one thing to think about is that, obviously we all run Google Ads, and Google Ads is great and important, but some people might also run Bing or Microsoft Ads campaigns, and the import from Google Ads to Microsoft Ads is going to be critical, because you can't import, it's not going to mean the same in Microsoft Ads. In Microsoft Ads, it looks like match types are going to stay the way they are. So this is a problem, because whenever we now change our strategy in Google Ads, this doesn't really apply to Microsoft, which means that we have to spend more time on
a lot of extra work.
A lot of extra work on the Microsoft end, because what we would just do usually is having an automated import from Google Ads that just kind of keeps the Microsoft accounts up to date. What we're going to have to do now is, amend those imports to not include keyword updates. In a way, you can do that. That's an option. But still, that means I have to then change around my structure or campaign structure if I'm uploading new campaigns, and then also do that in Bing or Microsoft, which it's not nice to have to do more again. So it's like they're trying to help us, but not always helping. And then here's the thing I briefly mentioned, where we're kind of working on this right now, so it's not perfect yet, but we are creating this kind of match type performance dashboard with BigQuery to analyze all our accounts. So this is actually all of our account data, to note the performance changes in the different accounts. So it will be able to be filtered by account, so each manager can use it, and you can kind of see either, for example, the BMM performance over time. When this changes a lot or starts dropping, then maybe, something happened there. Maybe the rollout has been happening, but as you can see, it doesn't look like it's really going quite wild actually right now in our accounts, as it seems. And then in this one, we kind of just try to look at, okay, what's my last 90 days benchmark for this match type in this account for clicks, for example. And what's the data in the last 7 days, and then what was it in the 7 days prior to that, and then the difference between it. So if the difference was going to be quite large, now obviously it doesn't matter so much for exact, but for BMM and phrase, this is going to be quite interesting just to see, okay, when is the really a shift happening? Just to notice the change. So that's what we're going to try and keep an eye on. There's probably a lot of visualizations that we will add to it as we go along, or as we see how the performance, how the account managers work with it. So but it's just the beginning. We were trying to do something to give to our account managers to keep an eye on it at scale. And and then I wanted to speak a little bit how we would see match types as a best practice. So we would really see it as a waterfall model. Just kind of really still exact match is still the one thing where we have most control over, where we can really ensure the quality the most within an account. So that still is the one thing we focus on, and we try to expand on with adding more exact matches based on what we've seen in search term reports that we received based on phrase and broad match keywords. And then phrase we will just use instead of BMM like we had before in order to expand your keyword set and to mine additional search terms you might have missed. So it's just this thing to constantly give you new input, because after all, Google is saying that 15% of search terms are new every day and we don't know them yet. So and then the last one, broad, is really this thing only to use in absolute exceptions only, because this is for us really a thing that you should only use if you have too little volume and your main focus is growth and not profitability, maybe. And we do have a nice case that I brought along around using broad match in a way that is more controlled, if I may say so. So we tested this on one of our accounts. We called it like broad expansion campaigns. So one of our account managers called it that, which I think is quite matching. And they tested putting our top generic keywords in broad match. So actually the full-on broad match, which is a big step for us. And then what they did is that they layered on top audiences, so remarketing or in-market audiences, all these great audience types we have within Google Ads now, and that worked well in the past, that has been proven to be good in targeting, which means it's only going to show to people in those lists. And then we also negated all keywords we already had in the account, so assuring we'd only catch new traffic that we don't have covered with our other keywords in the account already. So what this has done is in the first full month, the expansion campaigns already contributed to 25% of conversions at 21% of the costs. So so there might be a case for broad match, and this might be one of them. So it's like not going with the full-on craziness approach where you just go broad match, no limitations, nothing, just maybe smart bidding on top and go. That's not really what we would suggest. This is maybe like a step in between of phrase match and crazy broad match. So it's like just one step in between that you can take if you're missing out on volume in some way, because this might be for some clients that they really just want to grow. Then this might be a way to do it. But that was already the majority of the slide deck. There's not so much more content, so don't worry, it's not going to go on forever. Each of the other points are not so long. There's like 1 or 2 slides about every topic. So but this was the main thing. Do you guys have any questions already, or was that clear?
I guess that was pretty clear. I mean, it's really interesting now to see the shift. It's also like some of the parallels that we kind of can see when you look at organic, right? I mean, same story with like language-based rollouts and like the understanding of certain things. I think this is like there's a lot of parallels if you look at that from like the kind of more organic angle, if you so will. So kind of I assume they're kind of somewhat facing the same challenges really. Not enough data, not good enough like ML models yet, whatever the reason is, right? So no, I think the rest was really, really great. I mean, it's a lot of changes actually. I think at once. So probably also one of the bigger ones in recent years. So curious how people are gonna deal with it, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, and you don't realize just at first how much it means to the work we do. And I think it kind of showcases how much goes with it and how much we have to think about as an agency when those kind of changes are put upon us. It is quite a lot. So I really hope it helps some people that we have thought it through already, and maybe it helps them. So there's another thing which I'm a huge fan of is also apply the recommendations. So 35 AI-based suggestions that Google wants to auto-apply to your accounts. That's what? Auto-applied. So Google will implement these suggestions without you knowing or checking them. So that's that's the reaction. What they are, there's a few important differences, because some auto-applied recommendations have kind of existed in the past, which was mostly around ad copy. They were called ad suggestions. You could change the setting in your account settings. And we would always already say to all clients, like, we did this is actually a change that we would apply across our whole MCC, because we don't want Google to automatically apply ad suggestions. It's literally Google writing your ads for you.
Yeah.
Can't go
I mean,
right.
what can go wrong, right? I mean, this is like
what can go wrong? Yeah.
Perfect.
So this was one thing that's been there for a while, and we're happy that at least we can say, no, we don't want it. Done, save. But what's fairly new, so this has been talked about already in the last year quite a bit, because agencies have been giving previous access, and this has been around for a little while already, but it's really being pushed by Google now. So there's this dashboard, a separate dashboard outside of your Google Ads account, which is already quite interesting. It's the Auto Applied Recommendations Control Center. Yeah, there's writing, yay. And basically what this you can use this dashboard to separately activate or manage these auto-applied recommendations in there. And I brought some screenshots how this looks like so people can understand what it means. Basically, you have this overview where you can then see activated for accounts or not. So as you can see, it's usually not activated. And you can then select the type of recommendations you wanted to use if it's activated. So here you can see 2 of the recommendations we are okay for Google to implement automatically without us knowing beforehand, I guess. So this is an example of this. So it's a huge list where there's like different parts of it and so many different types of recommendations that Google would just be able to apply without your prior knowledge of it. So you can obviously, if you're happy with it, for Google to change all these things, then you could just go tick it all and let them run your account for you. And that's it. Never look into it again. It's going to be great for sure. No, sorry for the sarcasm. So here I would really look closely on what you're comfortable with Google to change. The problem is they are pushing this heavily. So they are really trying to, they put KPIs on agencies to, have majority of accounts at least opted in with something on this. And, this is going to be pushed no matter what. So they're going to, really try and force us to use it in some way. But then if you have to use it, then maybe only tick those things that you're comfortable with, because there might be some things you are okay with, like removing non-serving keywords. Yeah, maybe you're okay with that. But one thing I'm just not okay with is Google updating ad copy for clients. We first of all, contractually, we are obliged to give clients
approval, maybe. Yeah.
To get approval. Yeah, it's just, who wants Google to write the ads for the client? Also, the clients are going to be like, no, no thanks. Don't want that. Isn't that what I got an agency for? So yeah, it's those kind of changes that we as an agency are a bit like, no, why is this coming? But I'm sure some agencies will make a lot of use of it, because maybe they have a lot of clients, small clients that don't have visibility over accounts, and they can just basically automate their whole account management, and they're like, yeah, nice, cool. So be aware of that when you choose an agency in the future, that if it's them or actually Google doing the job, because you might just be paying someone to just tick some boxes and press yes. So yeah, just important to be aware of.
But at the moment, it's still completely up to you, right, to decide if you want to activate it or not.
Yeah, it's still completely up to you to decide to do it. But I mean, we all know where this is going at some point. Yeah, now we can still choose. Let's put it that way. We don't know how long that's going to be the case. I think there's a few years, and then we will
probably
it will be forced upon us in some way. So yeah, and then what you can do though, there's an applied recommendations history, so you can have an overview. So this is not an account we manage, but it's within our MCC. And so here you can see that it did some things. And the problem is this does not show in your Google Ads change history always. This is something that's very worrying. So you have to go to the separate dashboard to see who this change was done by, because we have in Google Ads a change history log. and it might be the case that not all of it is caught within that, which
in there. So it's on the separate. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's only in the separate dashboard, and there's already been some articles on some advertisers being like, I saw a keyword that I have never put in myself, and I was like, what?
And where does it come from? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then apparently in this case, the client activated it without the agency knowing.
All right.
And then a whole mess. This is gonna be lovely. It's gonna be great. So yeah, there's a clear direction visible of where it's going. I mean, we are for automation. We love automation. We love scripts. We love building our own tools. Doing all these things for our clients. But this is just bound to make more bad things happen in accounts, because this is the kind of stuff where we, as an agency, we don't want things implemented in an account where we don't feel like this is beneficial to the client in any way. And this is unfortunately.
You are using like automation for being more efficient, right? And not in order to lose control.
Exactly. That's the thing. And this is
and
really
I think it's also like
the
this
type
one
of
fits
automation
all, right?
to lose control.
Exactly. And then it's like trying to apply one fits all to everyone is just also probably not the right way to do it. Yeah.
No. So that was one. That was the two biggest ones to discuss. Then the rest is like responsive search ads. They're now the default ad type within the Google Ads interface. So already when creating ads, you will not see the expanded text ads anymore, but you can, when you do create the responsive search ad, in there's like this little sentence and little link switch back to text ads. But again, people that don't know
won't find it, and then the link is going to disappear in the future, right? So this is what's going to happen. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So this is yet another change to more automated, because what this, just to anyone that doesn't know what responsive search ads are, they are a very automated, machine learning focused ad type where you add a lot of headlines. I mean, we're a fan of it. We do use it in every ad group. It's like one responsive search ad and a couple of ETAs with it. That's how we generally do it, and it's our best practice. But there's a couple of headlines, a couple of description lines, and it will just mix and match the headlines to get the right ad for the user at that point. So based on all their machine learning. So that's what it does. And then we have insert lead forms. So this is lead form extensions, which is now out of beta, so everyone can use it, which is quite cool. There's a little bit of a showcasing on how that looks like. I think people know this from Facebook or other social platforms. It's quite common there. For search, it was in beta for quite a while. We already used it with some of our clients there in the beta phase. Definitely for any lead gen client, it's great. You can click on a headline, or sometimes it's also underneath the ad as an extension, and then it will directly bring you to the lead form, and which is really, really nice.
So you have like a very seamless integration, right? I think that's the main benefit, right?
Yeah, this is really nice. And also from when you send it, you can either visit the site or continue searching on Google. So it's like gives you like the option, do you want to find out more, or is it just that? So this is something I really like, and it's great. And then there's a pro tip here. You can integrate lead forms directly into your CRM system with a webhook integration. For example, with Zapier, it's one tool that is really great for any like integration with CRM or different systems together. It just makes all the lead form data go straight into your CRM system. So there's no need of going in and manually downloading lead form data or anything like that, which I think could be a blocker for some, clients. So maybe this could be a solution to go around that. And also just GDPR topic, we don't want to see personally identified data, but in these cases, it would actually make sense to just give the, what is it called, an alpha.
Like the DPR, data processing agreement.
DPR. Yeah, that's probably makes sense in those cases with clients. Then not the last, the display ads attribution, which is now an open beta, and you can see this. I just wanted to show people where they can find it because it's a bit hidden. So you have to go to your tools settings, measurement, and the attribution part, and there in the overview you will get this banner on top where you can just press OK, and then you can in the different reports segment by network, which is really nice. It's kind of like what you have in Google Analytics in a way, but just within your Google Ads account. So it's decent, I would say. It's one of those changes I would really support because it's really useful to understand the paths of your users. So yeah, super, super cool update. And then one bonus is the Insights beta. It's also just in some accounts, not every account has this. It probably depends on the volume of data in the account, I'm assuming. It's this tab called Insights underneath the Recommendations tab. And in here, you can find all kinds of useful search trends combined with your account data. So it's like super cool to see how maybe your account data is developing versus the search trends that are currently going on. So yeah, I think this is also a really, really cool feature. And you can see all kinds of reportings from trending search terms. There's like literally a detailed list of search terms that kind of popped up and have had a huge increase over last year, or things that are also within your account already and that have had increased search interest. So it's really nice because it takes out some complexity from looking into Google Trends and all these things separately.
Kind of somewhat integrated a bit better, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is super nice. Yeah. And then we're gonna plug in them recommendations everywhere here, so just be aware of that. But in here you can also see like by campaign and have a quick overview on where there's been more interest in which campaign. So yeah, definitely a very useful change, and everyone should keep an eye if they have it in their account or not. Unfortunately, it's not in every account, but yeah, it's a beta. It's going to come for sure. Let's press on the we like button as much as possible. So
so that stays. Okay,
exactly.
Fair enough.
And last but not least, Microsoft, there's only 2 small updates. I mean, the first one's not so small, but I don't want everyone to be kept too long because we're already over time.
Yeah, we're already crossing the 5 o'clock. No, that's fine. That's,
we started 5 minutes late, right?
Exactly. So you still have, you still have 4 minutes left. All good. All good.
I'm using the whole thing again, but there's been so much. There's been so much happening. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
it's too much. It's too much.
It's really a lot. Yeah, really a lot.
So, manual CPC. So Microsoft Ads is going to replace manual CPC bidding with enhanced CPC by the end of April. This is a change that's quite big, actually. Because it means all existing search, shopping, and dynamic search ads campaigns without any automated bidding strategies will be automatically migrated to enhanced CPC, which was kind of always this in between of, I'm not ready to use a smart bidding strategy yet, but I also don't want to use manual CPC. Now, the thing is with enhanced CPC, it's very unclear as to how it works in detail, and we've got mixed results with it in the past. So this is not the change we would love to see because we're happy of using smart bidding when it makes sense for the client, but it might not make sense for every client. Especially on Microsoft, there might not be that much data, so it's harder for Microsoft to. Generally, it's always harder for Microsoft to make these things work. It sounds quite rude, but they are always piggybacking on what Google is doing in a way. This is now something that Google hasn't done, so this is them deciding this. So. Interesting, but I just don't think it's the best way to go, but we will have to live with it. Again, there's nothing we can do against it, but it will be fully rolled out by end of April. And one thing though that's positive that's coming is portfolio bid strategies. So that's something we had on Google for a while, and it's now also coming to Microsoft. And they made this lovely decision tree on how to choose the smart bidding type that is best for you, which does make sense. Obviously, we are more like the target CPA, target ROAS fans, but we do have to say we've had very mixed results on Microsoft with this. So please put max CPC limits on there, and then just monitor your accounts closely when you do implement smart bidding on Microsoft. It's not as, doesn't perform as well as on Google, if I can be so honest. And and on filter link extensions, this is a new ad extension type. So very similar to structured snippets. It gives users more information about your business offerings. There's like predefined headers to choose from, available in all markets already. Only problem I see with it is that it's reported only at header level, so that you have all those different points in there, so you won't actually know who clicked on roses versus new arrivals, which to me is a bit like, why?
Yeah, and how would you know what to put in, right? So this is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. So you can't really optimize it, which maybe they will edit at a later point, but at the moment it's just reported on header level. So you could just see if flowers now as an extension is working or not. That's it. And it's only possible to be created online for now, not in the editor. And yeah, this is kind of how it looks like. Super simple. It's you give it a URL, a value, and the URL, and just save. Fairly easy. And just in case you missed it, there's been a lot of extension stuff happening on Microsoft. Yeah, so this is where it kind of goes to a bit more with the last year's launches. So action extensions were launched a while back. Not sure everyone is using them. If you don't, then do, because that makes a lot of sense. It's just like adding a CTA button to your ad. Useful. Multi-image extensions launched in September. So yeah, put different. This is such a beautiful example as well.
Yeah, they're all pretty strong in like selecting proper examples. Very true. Yeah. Anyhow,
absolutely great. And then also promotion extension, which have been on Google for a long time. They also launched on Microsoft in November 2020. In case anyone missed it, which are really useful for promotions. But yeah, that's it.
Wow. That was
2 minutes over.
Great.
That was a lot. 2 minutes over, but to be fair, that was a lot of content. So that was a lot. Anyhow, you're gonna share the slides, right? So we can just put them online, like, because I think there's like also like the decision tree and some other like our recommendations, I guess, and the kind of summaries probably very, very helpful for people that are not too or were not too familiar with what's coming there. So I would imagine that's certainly helpful. So that would be great. For those, again, that kind of died in a bit later, the notes generally over here, pa.ag/notes, where you can find them. So we're going to publish that during the week, as always. And yeah, since we're already way over time, I think we keep this very short and very sweet. No worries. Always good to have you on the show. Much appreciate kind of taking the time and preparing all of that. That was really cool. Yeah, so this is us for today. We are back actually next week, 4 p.m. German time. I have absolutely no idea, but Dominique probably knows what we're going to do next week. It certainly is going to be good. So, Dominique, so who's on next week, Dominique? You know? Oh, no.
So next week we are already in March. Yeah, it will be the 2nd of March. So there will be, we will have the organic search update again.
All right, yeah.
Just the two of us. And the week after, we will have finally Sarah out of my team here in the call for to talk about like content marketing in the field of B2B. So this is going to be super interesting. So, but continuing next week with the organic search update. Yeah.
Fantastic. Nice. So that said, thanks all for kind of tuning in. We much appreciate you taking the time. And yeah. We are off, over and out. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.